Well, thanks for checking out Convincing Proof. What I wanted to do here is just address I guess you could call it a popular level argument against Christianity. Sometimes you'll hear this in a debate or definitely see it on social media a lot. Or maybe you've encountered it just in conversations with people. And it's the idea that, well, you only believe in Christianity because that's the culture that you were raised in. And if you were raised, let's say, in a Muslim country, then you would be a Muslim. So your beliefs are basically determined by the culture you were raised in, and that takes away any sort of justification for you believing that your religion is actually true. At least that's the point, that's the conclusion that is trying to be made there. That your religious beliefs can't be justified because they were just arbitrarily set by the culture you happen to grow up in. So, what would we say to that? Well, it's a very poor argument. There are some better arguments against Christianity, right? I don't want to say that there aren't any good arguments. The problem of evil is probably the strongest argument against the existence of God, and the problem of evil takes some serious work to think through and process, and some very good responses have been made to the problem of evil. But I would say that that is, at least in terms of ranking arguments against God or arguments against Christianity, that would be up there as one of the better ones. But this sort of argument is very poor. And one of the ways you can tell that it's a poor argument is just by inserting other situations into the argument. So, for example, you could say something like, well, you have certain political beliefs, right? Or beliefs about how a society should be organized, beliefs about how people should function together in a society, right? You have certain beliefs about how the economy should work, and be structured, and the political system and all that stuff. Well, you can't be justified in believing those because you just believe what's been taught to you. You just believe the political system and economic system that you were raised in. If you would have been raised, let's say, in the USSR in the 1950s and 60s, right, in a communist regime, then you would believe that those things were correct. So you can't be justified in holding your political positions. And that's just absurd, right? You can't diminish somebody's beliefs by assuming they were set or determined just because of the culture that they were raised in. First of all, people change, right? People move away from the belief system that they were raised in. That happens all the time. Either people who are raised in religious families leave their religion, or religious cultures leave, stop believing in their religion, and vice versa. People who are raised in atheistic cultures like the USSR was, or atheistic families later in life come and adopt certain religious beliefs and even come to believe that Christianity is true. So it's not the case that your beliefs are merely determined or set because you were raised in a certain environment. And again, you can show the absurdity of that thought process just by inserting any other belief in that same sort of flow of logic. So I often use the example of your beliefs about the sun, right? The sun, the star in our solar system. Well, you've been taught in your culture certain beliefs about the sun, but if you were raised in another culture, say maybe a more primitive culture, you would have different beliefs about the sun. And that might be true, but should that cause you to not think your beliefs about the sun that you have right now, should that cause you to think those beliefs are false just because they would have been different if you were raised in a different, maybe more primitive culture? Well, no, you would say your beliefs about the sun are based on good reasons and evidence, not merely because you were raised in a scientific culture that based their beliefs about the sun on modern science, right? And so insert any other belief, whether it's about the sun, about politics, about human rights, moral beliefs, right? You could say the same thing about moral beliefs. Well, if you would have been born in the early 1800s in America, then your beliefs about races would be different. And so why believe that your view of races is correct? And so should you not think your view of races is correct because your beliefs about race would have been different if you had been raised? Well, no. See how silly that is? No, it's our beliefs aren't set and determined, even though they're influenced by our culture, right? We acknowledge that. They're not set or determined by our culture. And so our beliefs aren't completely arbitrary. We all grow up, inheriting certain beliefs from our culture and our family. But when we become a certain age, and this is true in any culture, we start to think on our own and start to wonder if what we've been taught is really true. And hopefully, and many of us do, develop different beliefs from what we were raised with based on good reasons and evidence. So this idea that we should somehow not think our beliefs are justified because we were raised in a certain culture, in this case a Christian culture, and they would have been different if we were raised in a Muslim culture, that's just a very poor argument trying to cause us to not think our Christian beliefs are justified. And I'll give you a few ways you can push back against that sort of thinking. So thanks for checking out Convincing Proof.